Welcome to The Productive Life. In this episode, we're talking about how to create and build new habits. Welcome to the Productive Life podcast hosted by me, Megan Minns. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to be more productive in their business and their personal life. Because as a business owner, your business and personal life are connected, and we can't talk about one without talking about the other. Each week, you'll learn about productivity, organization, personal development, self-care, business strategies, and more. And now, let's get started. I'm recording this week's episode from my home office in Houston. It's 6:30 at night and it's still super bright, and Houston has been crazy hot lately. It's like in the 90s, so we're full-blown summer here, which is always a fun time in Houston. And I am really excited to be talking to you about creating and building new habits, because I think habits are really critical when it comes to living the life we want to, achieving the goals we set out to achieve, and really being our best self and feeling really good. But of course, habits aren't always easy to build, to start doing, and to keep doing. So I want to share with you a few tips and tricks that I have for building and creating new habits. Tip number one is to make sure you're building the right habits. I really want you to be thoughtful with your habits and avoid doing the thing that I have done in the past, where you just pick all the habits you think you're supposed to be doing. You think you're supposed to meditate. You think you're supposed to work out first thing in the morning. You think you're supposed to read for 30 minutes in the morning, and you're supposed to do this and supposed to do that. And I'm pretty much over the thinking of like, I'm supposed to do something, so I'm going to plan on doing it. I'm over that. We're all about doing what feels fun, what feels intentional, what feels purposeful. And I like to think that way around habits also. So when you're building habits and deciding what habits you want to build, make sure you are building habits that will actually benefit you in a way that you want. So what is going to benefit your mind? Where do you feel like you need support mentally or with your mindset? Do you feel like your brain is really cloudy in the morning? Do you feel like you're always overwhelmed with negative thoughts? You can't really seem to overcome the resistance you have. You always feel, who knows? I mean, I'm just coming up with things off the top of my head, but do you need support mentally? And what habits would help you with that? Or maybe you need support physically. Maybe you are just in a rut. You can't seem to move your body and be active and exercise in the way you want to. So what habits do you need to build that will support your body? Whether it's working out or just moving around, going on a walk, who knows? But what are those habits you need to support you physically and support your physiology? And what habits will support you emotionally? I mean, life changes. Your habits are probably going to need to evolve over time. You might have seasons of life where you need a lot of emotional support and other seasons where you don't. And that goes for the other examples too, mentally, mindset, body, all that good stuff. It all might fluctuate, and that's okay. You don't need to set habits right now that you have to be executing, 20 years from now. You should always be reevaluating and making sure the habits are always giving you the benefits that you are seeking and getting the outcome you want from them. So what habits can help support you emotionally? And of course, when it comes to habits, I always want to encourage you to look at your goals and reverse engineer what habits you need to support that. Now, I talked about this in episode 15, how to achieve your goals. So you can go listen to that if you haven't yet. But basically, I want to make sure that your goals are supporting your ability to achieve your goals. And that can look a few different ways. It can be really direct. Like if one of your goals is to work out 3 times a week, then you need a habit to get up and go to the gym 3 times a week. But sometimes these habits might be indirect too. So maybe one of your goals is to book 3 new coaching clients, but you are always so insecure and full of doubt and imposter syndrome, and it just feels impossible to make the sale. Well, you probably need a habit around mindset, around overcoming those limiting beliefs, around building yourself up mentally and making you feel really confident and good at the beginning of the day. So those are just a few different examples of what might be a really clear, direct habit that you need to create to support your goals, and maybe a more indirect one that would help you achieve your goals and is just some support you need. So make sure you're looking at your goals and reverse engineering what habits will support you directly and indirectly in achieving those and accomplishing those 90-day action plans. Tip number 2, when it comes to building and creating new habits, is to incorporate them into your daily routines and weekly schedule. If you don't yet have a morning and evening routine, please go listen to episode 3 of the podcast when you're done here, because you absolutely should have one. And it might be really simple and a few items, or it might be really long, and that's okay. These routines are not there to be fluffy and willy-nilly. They're there to really help you build the life and business that you want and help prepare you and support you at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. I find that most of the habits that I am building in my life are in my morning and evening routines. It makes a lot of sense to have them kind of all right in there. I make sure they get done in the morning. And a lot of those habits are supporting my goals and supporting my work during the day while I'm actually trying to execute. So make sure you are incorporating those habits into maybe a morning routine or an evening routine. And again, kind of thinking a little bit of an example here, an indirect habit that you might want to add into your evening routine. I'm going to go back to that workout example because it's just the easiest off the top of my head. If you're trying to work out a certain number of times, maybe that's a goal, then it might help you to have an item in your evening routine, a habit in your evening routine, that is to set out your clothes and your gym bag the night before. That is something you maybe wouldn't have thought about otherwise, but is going to be a great way for you to support yourself in achieving your goals and incorporate that habit into your evening routine so that you make sure it gets done. Now, even if it's not a part of your morning or evening routine, it's still great to incorporate it into your weekly schedule. So you might want to add a calendar event in your ideal weekly schedule. That is when you're going to post on Instagram or maybe on Instagram stories. And that way it's built into not your routine, it's built into your schedule. You're planning around it. You have carved out that time for that goal and that habit that's going to help you hit that goal. So when it comes to your goals and figuring out what habits you need, we've already done that. So how can you make all of these things easy to execute? How can you incorporate it into your weekly schedule? So if it's something in the morning that you need to start doing, what can you prep and do the night before? Tip number 3 for creating and building new habits is understanding all of the specifics around the habit. So that includes picking the location, the time, and what you're actually doing for that habit. Now, this is huge and really powerful. So if your goal is to work out 5 times a week, then make sure you know where you're doing it, when you're doing it, and what you're doing for that workout. So as an example, I'm going to go to LA Fitness Monday through Friday every morning at 6:30 a.m. And I'm going to do a resistance workout following Fitness Carly's 8-week workout guide on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to do a 45-minute low intensity workout on the treadmill. So wow, how much better of a habit is that than I want to work out 5 times a week? When we just have, I want to work out 5 times a week, we have so many other decisions to figure out. And if you leave them to the day of, it's so much harder and it's so much easier to make excuses. So do your best to make a plan in advance. The 4th tip is to start doing habit stacking. Now, this is a phrase I learned from the book Atomic Habits, which I can't believe I haven't mentioned earlier, is a game-changing book for building habits. If you haven't read it, go buy it on Amazon right now. It's a game changer. It's not one of those boring habit or productivity books that you buy because you're supposed to and then never actually read, which I'm totally guilty of doing, but it's so good. And James Clear is the author, and he does a great job of making it really enjoyable to read, really easy and fast to read, teaching you a lot. You're getting a lot of new information and new tips, but making it really simple and actionable. It's like the sweet spot of building habits. It's a great book. And it's one that I have revisited and I want to reread it again now. And it's so good. I'll actually put a link beneath this episode if you want a link to buy the book, or you can just go to meganmins.com/atomic habits and it'll send you right there. I actually listened to it through Audible as well. And you can get a free 30-day Audible trial if you go to meganmins.com/audible. I love Audible. It's the best. And you'll actually get 2 free books if you use that link. But anyways, back to Atomic Habits and habit stacking. So I'm going to pull a lot of this information straight from James Clear's book, all about habit stacking, and because he's the master of this and it's brilliant. So habit stacking is when you identify a current habit you're already doing every day, and then you stack your new behavior or habit on top of it. So you're taking a habit you already do, it's already something that you don't even have to think about, and you're stacking the new habit you want to do on top of it. James actually has a formula for this. The habit stacking formula is after or before, so you choose after or before, current habit, I will, new habit. So he gives some examples that I think might help kind of make this make sense. After I pour my cup of coffee each morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. After I put on my running shoes, I will text a friend or family member where I am running and how long it will take. After I sit down to dinner, I will say one thing I'm grateful for that happened today. So that's kind of what the habit stacking formula looks like in sentence form. And by habit stacking, we're basically making a shortcut to developing new habits because you already have one habit that's really strong and a pattern and a behavior that's been strengthened over however long you've been doing it. So by linking the new habit to this cycle that's already built into your brain, you're going to make it so much easier and more likely that you'll stick to this new behavior. Anytime I've been building new habits, when I implement habit stacking, it is like a speed, like it's a super shortcut. It's a speedy way to start implementing these habits. I find that my habits stick faster and stronger when I habit stack them as opposed to when I try to do them any other way. In the book Atomic Habits, he even goes on to say you can actually continue to create longer stacks by chaining small habits together. I don't want to get too deep in this right now, but I find this topic so interesting. So there's an example that he gives for how you might stack multiple habits together. So I'm going to read that out loud. After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds. After I meditate for 60 seconds, I will write my to-do list for the day. After I write my to-do list for the day, I will immediately begin my first task. So you can kind of see how like instead of just having 3 separate habits, now they're all like interconnected. And they're all still related though to that first one of pouring the morning cup of coffee. So that was the initial trigger. So I just think that's really interesting, and habit stacking is very powerful. So if you haven't done it before, hopefully you know enough. I mean, I think I've shared enough here that you can just get going and start doing habit stacking. But if you want to learn more about not only habit stacking, but the different 4 laws of habits that James outlines in Atomic Habits, go to meganmins.com/atomic habits to go check that out. But basically, habit stacking kind of creates like a simple set of rules that guide your future behavior. And James does make a very clear point that no matter how you use habit stacking, the secret is making sure that that cue, the first thing, is the right thing to kick it off. So make sure you're choosing something that you do every single day or like the right amount of frequency for your habit. So if you're trying to do something 5 days a week, don't pick a habit that you do 2 times a week to kick it off. So just make sure you're choosing the right habit that you're already doing to kick off the stack. My 5th and final tip for creating and building new habits is to track your habits. Now, this is where habits start to feel really fun and you can gamify it. And a lot of people do this differently. So maybe once you've achieved this habit, you've done it so many times, you'll actually get a reward. So feel free to gamify it if you want. But what I love to do is really, really simple. I actually have a habit tracker that I print out, and it has all the habits that I want to do, and it has every day on there. And I have a little square, and I just have my highlighter, and I fill in the little box as I do it. And this little chain is just beautiful and powerful. And it's a really great visual reminder. Make sure you're hanging this up somewhere in your house that you will see all the time. So like in your kitchen on your fridge is always a great spot. Or what I like to do is actually hang mine in the mirror in my bathroom so that I see it every morning and every night and anytime I go in there. So wherever you're going to see it a lot is my best recommendation. I have tried building it out in a bullet journal, which I know a lot of people love to do. I just found that I had to have it open to that page all day or it didn't have the same amount of power. And I wasn't bringing the bullet journal with me like around my house in the way that I would need to. So just wanted to throw that out there. Feel free to try any of that. I do actually have a free printable habit tracker you can download right now by clicking the link beneath this episode or going to meganmins.com/habit tracker. And you can just go ahead and download it right now. And it is undated, so you'll be able to put in the dates you want to track. So just make sure you are tracking these habits and starting to build some momentum. There is a whole story behind habit tracking, and it's kind of funny because, and I might butcher this, so I apologize, but I've heard it so many times and so long ago. But the premise is that there's this story that Jerry Seinfeld supposedly talked about in an interview about don't break the chain. And someone was asking him how he was such a successful comedian and how he started writing jokes and getting good at them. And he said that he had a calendar and he just literally put an X, like a red X through the date on the calendar every time he wrote. And he was trying to do it every day. So he was like, you do it every day and you put an X on the calendar for every day you write the joke and you don't break the chain. So you just keep going. You always make sure you can X out the day on the calendar. And Jerry Seinfeld has now, since then said that he actually didn't ever say this. And so I don't know where the origins of this really are, why it was originally linked to him if he never said it, but it's kind of funny. So if you've ever heard about Don't Break the Chain or Jerry Seinfeld productivity tip, that's the story. And I think the principle is beautiful. So I like to do this when I have one main habit. So I think the printable habit tracker that I'm providing for you guys and the habit tracker I use right now, it allows you to track multiple habits instead of just one. So that is what I'm currently using. But if you are starting out and you just have one major habit that you're really trying to build into your life, you can do this kind of method where you print out a calendar and you just start Xing out when you do it. So I actually did that exact strategy 3 or 4 years ago when I wanted to start working out more often. And I just hung these 3 calendars in the wall. I printed them out online, just printed them on normal computer paper, hung them on the wall, and I had a marker next to them. And I always X them out every time I worked out. And it was really powerful. So if you're looking to just focus on one particular habit, you could do that method or use the free habit tracker to track multiple habits. But either way, make sure you are tracking these habits because that is the most powerful way to see how you're doing, how often you're doing it, build some momentum, and hopefully fill out all the squares and don't break the chain. And if you're interested in learning how I set my goals, getting some help setting your own goals and accomplishing them, then you would love my new goal setting course. So I've actually created a goal setting course that's going to walk you through my exact process for how I set my goals, how I make action plans, how I make sure it's great timelines, addressing all of the mistakes we just talked about, and how you can actually accomplish and achieve these goals in the timeline you want to. So be sure to go to meganmins.com/goal course or click the link below this episode to find out more. I hope you enjoyed this episode and I can't wait to hear all about your new habits. Feel free to tag me on Instagram stories or if you post on Instagram or anything like that. I would love to see you filling these out and I would just love to cheer you on in building and creating these new habits. So definitely tag me. Hope you enjoyed this. Can't wait to see your habits and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Productive Life Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would share your biggest takeaway on your Instagram stories or wherever you hang out. This helps me understand what you find the most helpful so that I can make more episodes and resources like this. If this podcast has helped you at all, please take just 1 minute to leave a review on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about the Productive Life Podcast with others who may enjoy it. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes sent to you directly. To learn how to work with me one-on-one or get instant access to freebies, trainings, templates, workshops, and more, be sure to go to meganmins.com right now. I'll see you in the next episode.